The missing piece. The homestead sat in uneasy quiet as dusk settled over the prairie. Sarah stood at the window, watching the last light fade from the western sky, her father's revolver heavy at her hip. Behind her, Eleanor moved through the room with methodical purpose, checking ammunition counts and positioning lanterns where they'd provide the best light without making them targets. 23 cartridges for the Henry rifle, Eleanor said, her voice steady. 18 for the shotgun. Your father's revolver has 5 rounds remaining, and Daniel's pistol is fully loaded. Sarah nodded without turning from the window. The mathematics of defense. How many bullets? How many men? How many hours until dawn? The consortium had destroyed their home, planted false evidence, and obtained legal authority to seize their land. Captain Fletcher and William Morrison had documented the truth, but documentation wouldn't stop desperate men from making one final attempt. They'll come tonight, Sarah said quietly. Hartwell wouldn't have traveled all this way just to accept defeat. No, Eleanor joined her at the window. Men like that don't surrender. They escalate. Footsteps on the porch made them both turn, hands moving toward weapons before Daniel's voice called out. It's me. He entered carrying an armful of split wood, his face grim. Finished reinforcing the barn door. If they try to burn us out, the livestock have a chance. He set the wood by the stove and dusted his hands. Henry's positioned in the root cellar with a clear view of the eastern approach. Samuel and Peter are watching the north and west from the barn loft. Sarah studied the man she loved, noting the determined set of his jaw and the careful way he avoided looking at the destruction around them. The overturned furniture, the scattered papers, the broken dishes that had been wedding gifts from Eleanor's mother. You should rest while you can, Eleanor said to Sarah. It'll be a long night. I'm not tired. That wasn't a suggestion. Eleanor's tone carried the authority of a woman who'd held her family together through impossible circumstances. You've been running on fury and determination for 2 days. Your body needs rest, even if your mind won't admit it. Daniel cleared his throat. I could stay with her. Keep watch while she... You most certainly will not. Eleanor's expression would have frozen the South Saskatchewan in July. I don't care that you're courting or that we're facing an attack. There are standards of decency, Daniel Thornton, and I'll not have them abandoned just because men with guns might show up. Sarah felt heat rise in her cheeks, even as exhaustion pulled at her. Mother, don't mother me. You'll rest in your room with the door closed. Daniel will keep watch from the main room like a proper gentleman. Eleanor's eyes softened slightly. I know you're scared. I know you want him close. But we don't give up who we are just because evil men threaten us. That's how they win. Not by taking our land, but by making us forget our principles. Daniel's face had gone red as prairie clay. Mrs. Mackenzie, I didn't mean any disrespect. I know you didn't. Eleanor's voice gentled. You're a good man, Daniel. That's why you'll do the proper thing and keep your distance until there's a ring on her finger and a preacher's blessing. The absurdity of the moment, discussing courtship propriety while armed and waiting for an attack, struck Sarah with unexpected force. She felt a laugh bubble up, inappropriate and unstoppable. We're fortified against murderers and you're worried about bedroom doors? Especially then. Eleanor's mouth twitched toward a smile. When everything else is chaos, decency matters more, not less. Besides, what would your father say if he knew I let Daniel Thornton spend the night in your room? Daniel made a strangled sound. He'd shoot me with the revolver Sarah's currently wearing. Exactly. Eleanor nodded with satisfaction. Now, Sarah, go rest. Daniel, you'll take first watch at the western window. I'll wake you in 3 hours. Sarah wanted to argue, but exhaustion was winning. She caught Daniel's eye and saw the mix of love, frustration, and reluctant amusement there. Sleep well, he said softly. I'll be right outside if you need anything. Anything proper, Eleanor added firmly. Sarah retreated to her small room, closing the door on Daniel's embarrassed expression. She sat on the narrow bed, still wearing her father's revolver, and felt the weight of the past days settle over her like a physical burden. The attack on the trail, her father's surgery, the sabotaged wagon, the destruction of their home, the consortium's relentless pressure, legal and violent by turns. She lay back, intending to rest her eyes for just a moment, but sleep claimed her almost instantly. She woke to voices in the main room, low, urgent, controlled. Moonlight streamed through her window, suggesting hours had passed. She rose silently, checking the revolver before opening her door. Henry Blackburn stood in the center of the room, his weathered face grave in the lamplight. Eleanor and Daniel flanked him, and Sarah could see Samuel Thornton's silhouette in the doorway. "Can't wait until morning," Blackburn was saying. "The information is time-sensitive." "What information?" Sarah stepped into the room. Blackburn turned to her, and something in his expression made her stomach clench. "I need to show you something. Something I found in the consortium's correspondence that changes everything." He spread papers on the table. Documents with official seals, letters in elegant script, maps marked with surveyor's notations. Sarah moved closer, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. "The mineral rights release in 1881, Blackburn said quietly. "The one William Morrison discovered. I've been trying to understand why someone in the territorial government would deliberately release those rights to homesteaders when the usual policy was to retain them for the crown. And," Eleanor's voice was tight, "because someone knew there was silver here. Knew it years before any homesteaders arrived. Knew it and wanted to create a situation where they could acquire it through seemingly legal means." Blackburn tapped one of the documents. "The consortium didn't just happen to learn about your mine, Mrs. Mackenzie. They've known about the silver deposits in this area since 1879. They've been planning this acquisition for 5 years. Sarah stared at the papers, her mind racing. But if they knew about it, why let homesteaders claim the land at all? Why not just because direct crown acquisition would have required parliamentary approval, public scrutiny, proper compensation, Blackburn interrupted. But if homesteaders claimed the land and then failed, lost it to debt, accident, or violence, the consortium could buy it cheaply from the banks or the widows. No one questions a failed homestead. No one investigates when settlers give up and move on. The Henderson family, Sarah breathed. They didn't just stumble on the mine. They were targeted from the beginning. Yes, and so were you. Blackburn pulled out another document, and Sarah's blood went cold as she recognized her father's signature. This is the original loan document from the Medicine Hat Bank, the one that gave you 30 days to pay $280 or lose your claim. Eleanor moved closer. We know about that loan. Cornelius Webb. Cornelius Webb is a minor player. Look at the signature of the loan officer who approved your father's application. Blackburn pointed to an elaborate signature at the bottom of the page. Sarah leaned in, squinting at the flowing script. Her breath caught. That's not possible. It's not only possible, it's the missing piece you've been searching for. Blackburn's voice was grim. The loan officer who approved your father's credit, who structured the payment terms to ensure failure, who has been feeding information to the consortium from the beginning. Edmund Whitmore. Sarah felt the room tilt. But he's been helping us. He's our lawyer. He's been investigating the traitor. He's been directing your investigation away from himself while positioning the consortium to acquire your claim legally when you inevitably default. Blackburn pulled out more papers. Correspondence between Whitmore and Martin Hartwell. Detailed financial projections. Maps showing not just the Mackenzie claim, but a dozen surrounding sections marked for acquisition. He's not working for you. He's working for them. He has been since before you ever filed your homestead claim. Daniel's hand found Sarah's shoulder as she struggled to process the revelation. Edmund Whitmore. The Calgary lawyer who'd arrived to handle Blackwood's estate, who'd offered to help them for 20% of the mine's profits, who'd been investigating potential traitors in Medicine Hat while he himself was the architect of their destruction. The bank deadline, Eleanor said slowly. The 30 days. How much time do we have left? Blackburn consulted another paper. According to the original loan document, payment was due by sunset on September 15th. That's tomorrow. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Tomorrow. After everything they'd survived, the siege, the attack, the legal warfare, the assassination attempts, it all came down to a bank payment they couldn't possibly make in time. How much silver did Morrison's survey suggest? Samuel Thornton spoke from the doorway. Enough to pay the debt 10 times over, Sarah said bitterly. But we can't extract it, process it, and sell it in one day. Even if we could, Whitmore would find a way to delay or block the payment. Then we need to expose him, Daniel said. Show the territorial judge that the entire loan was fraudulent from the beginning. With what evidence? Eleanor gestured at Blackburn's papers. These documents prove Whitmore was the loan officer, but they don't prove fraud. He'll claim he was simply doing his job, that he had no way of knowing about the silver deposits, that his later involvement as your lawyer was coincidental. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities and discarded them just as quickly. Confront Whitmore directly? He'd deny everything and disappear. Go to Captain Fletcher? The mounted police had no jurisdiction over banking practices. Ride to Calgary and find another lawyer? There wasn't time. There's one option. Blackburn's voice was quiet. It's dangerous, possibly illegal, and might not work. But it's the only way I see to force Whitmore's hand before that deadline. Tell us, Sarah said. Blackburn met her eyes. We make him believe he's won. We let him think you're broken, desperate, ready to sign over the claim for whatever pittance he offers. We arrange a meeting, tonight, before dawn, and we record his confession. Record it how? Eleanor asked. I have a stenographer in Medicine Hat, a woman who's helped me document evidence in other cases. If we can get Whitmore to admit his role, to explain the consortium's plans, she can create a legal record that even a corrupt territorial judge can't ignore. He'll never confess, Daniel protested. Not to us. No, but he might confess to Sarah. Blackburn turned to her. If you go to him alone, frightened, telling him your mother wants to give up, but you need his help to convince her. If you play the desperate daughter, the helpless woman who doesn't understand the legal complexities. Men like Whitmore can't resist explaining their own cleverness to someone they believe is inferior. Sarah felt the weight of her father's revolver at her hip, felt the exhaustion in her bones and the fury in her heart, felt Daniel's hand tighten on her shoulder and her mother's fierce gaze on her face. It's a trap, Eleanor said. He'll know something is wrong. Maybe, Blackburn nodded. But he also believes you're isolated, desperate, and running out of options. He believes Sarah is a young woman in over her head. He'll want to secure the claim before sunrise, before any chance of interference. His arrogance is his weakness. Sarah thought about the man who'd sat in their home, who'd accepted their trust and their promise of 20% of the mine's profits. Who'd been investigating traitors, while he himself orchestrated their destruction. Who'd structured a loan designed to fail and then positioned himself to profit from that failure. I'll do it, she said quietly. Sarah, Daniel began. I'll do it, she repeated, turning to face him. Because it's the only way. Because we're out of time and options. Because I won't let them take our home without fighting with every weapon we have. Eleanor studied her daughter in the lamplight. Your father would say it's too dangerous. My father isn't here. And if he were, he'd understand that sometimes the most dangerous thing is doing nothing. Sarah looked at each of them in turn. How do we arrange the meeting? Blackburn pulled out his pocket watch. It's just past midnight. I'll ride to Medicine Hat and wake Whitmore. Tell him you're at the homestead and desperate to talk. That your mother is ready to surrender, but you're fighting her. That you need his legal counsel immediately. He'll come. And the stenographer? She'll be hidden in the back room before he arrives. Every word will be recorded. Blackburn's expression was grim. But Sarah, you need to understand, if he suspects the trap, if he realizes what you're doing, he'll become dangerous. These men have already committed murder. They won't hesitate to kill one more witness. I know. Sarah touched the revolver at her hip. I'm not going in unarmed or unprepared, and I'm not going in alone. She looked at Daniel, at her mother, at Samuel Thornton in the doorway, saw the same determination reflected in each face. They'd stood together against Blackwood's siege and the consortium's attacks. They'd survived violence and betrayal and loss. They'd faced this final confrontation the same way, as a family, as a community, as people who refused to surrender their land or their principles to evil men with legal documents and murderous intent. Then we have a plan, Eleanor said quietly, and we have until dawn to make it work. Blackburn gathered his papers. I'll ride now. Expect Whitmore within 2 hours. Be ready. He disappeared into the darkness, and Sarah heard hoofbeats fading toward Medicine Hat. She turned to find Daniel watching her with an expression that mixed pride and fear. "You don't have to do this," he said softly. "Yes, I do." She moved into his arms, feeling his strength and warmth. This is what they've been building toward from the beginning. Not the violence or the legal warfare. Those were just tactics. The real plan was always to break us financially, to make us so desperate that we'd sign away everything just to survive another month. And now you're going to make Whitmore admit it. Now I'm going to make him think he's won. And then I'm going to watch his face when he realizes he's destroyed himself. Sarah pulled back to meet Daniel's eyes. This ends tonight. One way or another, before that bank deadline, we'll know if we keep our home or lose everything. Eleanor began checking weapons and ammunition again, her movements precise and controlled. Samuel Thornton moved to the window, watching for Blackburn's return. Daniel held Sarah close, and she felt his heartbeat strong and steady against her cheek. Somewhere in Medicine Hat, Edmund Whitmore was being woken with news of the Mackenzies' desperation. Somewhere in the darkness, Henry Blackburn was riding hard to set the trap. Somewhere in the hours before dawn, the final confrontation would unfold. Sarah closed her eyes and thought about her father recovering in Dr. Harrison's house. Thought about Thomas, safe with the Reed family. Thought about the silver mine beneath their feet and the home they'd built with blood and sweat and tears. Thought about the missing piece finally falling into place. Edmund Whitmore, the trusted lawyer, the helpful ally, the architect of their destruction from the very beginning. The stakes had never been higher. The deadline had never been closer. And the trap had never been more dangerous. But Sarah Mackenzie had learned something in the weeks since they'd discovered the Henderson letters and the mine beneath their feet. She'd learned that survival required more than strength or courage. It required the willingness to see clearly, to think strategically, to fight with intelligence as well as determination. And tonight, she would show Edmund Whitmore and his consortium exactly what a desperate young woman in over her head could accomplish when she finally understood the game being played. The prairie wind rattled the windows, the moon climbed higher, and in the homestead that had been torn apart by men who believed they were untouchable, Sarah Mackenzie prepared to face the final confrontation with clear eyes and a loaded revolver. Dawn was still hours away. The deadline loomed, and everything they'd fought for hung in the balance of what would happen when Edmund Whitmore rode into their trap.
Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures. Thanks for watching our stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic adventures.